Hey, how's it going? Today I'm going to cover a topic that was left in the comments of my last live stream, and we're just going to jump into it because I think it's a good question. I've actually been getting this a lot lately in varying different ways, so I think it's a great topic to hit. So anyways, the question is for suggestion for a topic. Do I take her to arbitration again on minor stuff to build a history or save the money? Youngest kid is 7, and the ex continues to deteriorate. I think there's a 50% chance she will become a danger to the kids by the time they turn 18. You know, and the tough part with this is I get this question in varying formats or scenarios a lot. The really tough part about this is picking your battles and really being able to see the long-term game, I guess, if you want to call it that, as it pertains to this. Now, I will say this, it's really tough when you're in the middle of it because it feels so iron hot that you feel like you have to do something. It's actually twofold because you feel like you have to do something. You also feel more than likely like there needs to be some accountability. There needs to be some consequences for the chaos and drama that's being created. Now, some people have success when they go to court on this, but I would say for the most part, it actually isn't. It doesn't. So there's some nuances to this, but I think for the most part, in the course of this discussion, it'll help flesh it out and hopefully make more sense. First thing is, you got to pick your battles appropriately. Even if you're just picking the battles you're going to fight the ex on, it took me a while to figure that out. I beat my head against the wall numerous times and for an extended period of time, basically not accomplishing anything. Now, what did I hope to accomplish? I hoped to accomplish change. I wanted things to change. I wanted some accountability. I wanted to have the ex realize the mistake and or be held accountable for the chaos that was being created. Now, I hate to say this, as you most of you know, after the 12 years of my experience before all the kids aged out, I accomplished things, but I didn't accomplish what I intended to originally accomplish, right? The first question you have to ask yourself, and you have to really, really think about it, is what you are intending to do, the battle that you are picking, is it going to move the needle? Is it going to make a difference? Now, you have to be realistic about that part because otherwise, you're going to drive yourself freaking insane trying to force, a round peg into a square hole. The next thing on this is these are some questions that you really need to ask yourself. And to me, it helps drive the decision of what your next move is. The first thing I think is what are the kids saying to you? And there's a difference. There's a difference between them saying, oh, it's really stressful at the other parents, or it's really stressful at mom's, or it's really stressful at dad's, as opposed to, you have to get me out of there. I can't do this anymore. I love my other parent, but this is driving me crazy. That rarely happens. And if they're not at that level, for the most part, it's not going to move the needle. You're basically going to spend a ton of money and not accomplish anything. Next thing is, what are, when I say professionals saying, or what do the other professionals say, what I mean is, what are the teachers saying? What are the therapists saying? What are the doctors saying? Now there's a caveat on this too, because I know for you guys that have been with me for a while, you'll probably remember this story. There was a period of time where the ex reached out to me and said, "Hey, Duane, you need to talk to the therapist. She wants to talk to you." And I'm like, okay, whatever. So called, and therapist is like, "You need to, things are really bad over there." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. We've talked about this." "Well, you need to know." I'm like, "Okay, you gonna put it in writing, and are you willing to testify to it?" "Well, no." Then it's like, what do you expect me to do? We've been talking about the fact that this is a total Charlie Foxtrot, and nothing is happening, and all you're doing, yeah, great, you're validating that what I already know, but it's not moving the needle. So what are they saying? Are doctors saying, little Timmy needs to exercise more, their weight's getting out of control? Are they willing to, put it in writing? And when I say put it in writing, I don't mean like they say, we recommend that this is happening, this happens, this happens, this happens. Are they willing to say that this is a danger to the child? I am very concerned about this, and I'm willing to go to court to say that this is a problem. Are they saying that? I've had conversations with people where I'll ask that question and they're like, "Oh, it's in writing," and they'll show me the doctor's note. And I'm like, what is that? Are they going to say that in court? Well, that's the thing. If they're willing to say it in court and they're going to show up and they're going to say this kid needs A, B, C, and D, and you can prove that the other parent is refusing to do A, B, C, and D, and you are, and you're pushing for a custody change, and there's multiple professionals that will back you up and say this is a danger to the child if this doesn't change, okay, fine. I have not run across a scenario where that has actually been the case. I have run across a scenario where what does happen is a custody evaluator is like, "Oh, this is bad. I'm going to write up and say, the other parent's emotionally unstable and this, that, and the other." And then it comes down to it and like, well, they're really not that bad. I recommend 50-50 custody. And, you've dumped thousands upon thousands of dollars into this and accomplished nothing. So that is a key. And then to kind of go back with what the person was saying with one of the comments they made is, what exactly does danger to the kids mean? And is anyone else seeing that and saying it? I've seen this a lot where, hell, I even went through this where I'm like, oh my God, she's a danger to the kids. She's out of her mind and it's just getting worse. But everyone else is saying, well, everything's okay. It's not that bad. Everyone has their issues, right? So it's like, what exactly are you doing? There's a story, I just thought about this right now. There was a story a few years ago where a guy was concerned about what was going on so much that he grabbed the kid and took off with him. And what ultimately happened? He completely lost custody and got into a lot of trouble because he didn't follow the court order. So you can't just unilaterally make decisions, unfortunately. And most of the time, I guess my ex made a ton of unilateral decisions, at least early on, with no consequence. Technically, that was before there was a court order, so there wasn't really anything that she was doing. It was just that she was making all the decisions in her mind and just unilaterally saying, well, this is what I think custody will be now, and this is what I think is going to happen now, and this is what my decision is. I'm choosing the best for, yada, yada. So really, what does that mean? If we go back to, let's see if I can pull this up. If I can get back to it, I should have done it a different way. We pull back up the comment. I think there's a 50% chance she will become a danger to the kids by the time they're 18. What does that mean? What does danger mean? Does that mean she's doing drugs? Does that mean she's going to hurt herself, hurt the kids? I mean, and then can you prove it? Do you have enough evidence to do something to move the needle, like I mentioned before? And if you don't, then going back to court has a potential to blow up in your face, because it could potentially look like you are the one who's constantly arguing, constantly driving things back to court on, like he even said in here, or they even said in here, on minor things. You do not want to set the precedence that you're always running to court to try to punish the other person for minor stuff, because it hurts your reputation, it damages your credibility, and there's probably a decent chance that everything will stay the same. So if you have like 50-50 custody, it won't necessarily move the needle on lowering your time or increasing the time. But every time you enter into this, viper pen of chaos, meaning family court, there's a risk of things going, basically going badly, like them saying, you know what, you're a pain, we're going to switch things around. I'm working with a guy right now who's having similar issues with this, where the ex has medical decision making, is going against doctors' recommendations, and he's losing his mind on it. And it's like, and now she's taking him back to court because he's violating the court order. Now it's ridiculous because he's trying to implement what the doctors say, but the court order says she has the ultimate 100% decision making on medical. So, before you start violating the court order, now granted, it's a ridiculous thing. It's like let's say, whatever, the kid has diabetes. I'm just making up a scenario. A kid that has diabetes, doctor says, hey, you need to cut out the sweets. And mom, in this scenario, hypothetical scenario, takes right after the thing, goes and get a gigantic milkshake for the kid to celebrate his doctor's appointment, and a chocolate cake to celebrate the stress of the week. It's like, if the court has deemed her to have 100% decision making on medical, it's technically her decision. You could go back and say, hey, things have happened and we need to change this. But again, it's like, are the medical professionals going to back you up on that discussion? So the next thing is, like, on moving the needle, the first item I'm going to hit is, what's the likely outcome? Not the outcome that you want, right? Because, hey, what's the outcome we want? The outcome we want is we want to go back to court, them go, oh my God, I did not realize how bad this was. Holy cow. Thank you, person, for coming back to court and bringing this to my attention. I'm immediately going to change custody, change rule, change the decision, like on the scenario I was mentioning before. I'm going to give the other parent now 100% medical because this is ridiculous. And oh, by the way, I think, they need to be evaluated for if they're mentally stable, whatever. What's the likely outcome? Likely outcome typically is now, don't do that. If you keep doing that, it could be a problem. Now, potentially that could happen, and potentially sometimes you have to go through that iteration a few times for the judge to finally get annoyed to do something. That's the only scenario where maybe, in my mind, taking minor issues that you've let grow into a matrix of problems to where you can say, like for instance, let's use a different scenario where, let's say, the person's always late, right? The drop-offs are always late is what you're saying. And you go into court and it's like, okay, what happened? Well, they were late on Tuesday by 40 minutes. Okay. What about, every other Tuesday after that? Well, every other Tuesday they were on time. Okay. stuff happens, right? You got to be able to show a trend. And on that, what I'm saying right here is, will a judge hear and believe what you're saying, right? If you can come through and you can basically come out and say, look, going back to court because this keeps happening. This is the path that we've tried to do, that I've tried to work with the other parent to make, to fix it, to change it, to whatever. Nothing has worked. And here's multiple examples over a period of time, and that time better be more than a week, over weeks, if not months, to demonstrate it. And I mean, and it would have to be blaring, right? I mean, if you're like, well, I have 4 months worth of data and one day every 4 months, there's a problem. Okay. If so is that going to move the needle? Is the judge going to hear what you're saying? More than likely not. Is anyone besides your attorney, because attorneys are blood-sucking vipers, vampires, whatever, and most of them will just be overjoyed to take your money to try to fight something. So what I'm saying is who else is supporting this? If the doctor is saying, like to me, if a doctor was saying, oh my God, Duane, let me back up. Beep, 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 back up. And that it's that story I was talking about with the therapist. If the therapist would have said, oh my God, this is catastrophic. This has to be changed. You need to go to court and I will do anything to help move the needle on this. That's different. I have very rarely heard that. Very rarely. Sometimes you get that where school or somebody who's a mandatory report where something has gotten so egregious where they legally have to make the call to protective services, then that kind of changes the dynamic a little bit. So, and this is kind of what I was just saying, are teachers, doctors, therapists willing to, what I say is, put pen to paper? Are they really going to support you on this? Are they going to be your advocate in court? Now, another example of this, I've talked to people who've had scenarios where, a social worker is at that mode, and by the time they get to court, that person switches jobs, so they're not involved anymore. They don't testify. The new person comes in and completely says, oh, this is not a big deal. And since we're here, I think custody should change the other way, right? I mean, that type of stuff happens. So you really have to think about what exactly are you hoping to accomplish? And the next bullet on this is it worth the fight? And this is a really tough one. Is it worth the fight? And the reason it was tough for me is when you're in the midst of it, you feel like you have to fight. You feel like you're powerless to affect change, and you have to do something. And we'll talk a little bit more about what I think is the right course of action or a way to think about it on that. So the next phase on this one I want to hear, and I kind of went through this, excuse me, is like on the thing of what people are saying. First thing is the kids. Kids have a ton of power in this. And I go, but, and the problem is, what exactly are they saying? I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the video, are the kids coming to you and saying, oh my God, this is horrible. I can't live like this anymore. I love my mom, like in my situation, and this didn't happen. My kids didn't do this. I love my mom, but this is, it's funny. They've said it since, which doesn't matter. I think now as they're older, they're like, oh wow, you know what? If things would have changed, it would have been better overall for everybody. Oh well. But what exactly are they saying? Are they saying that they want to switch houses? Are they saying that they are scared, really scared? Now, the other thing is are they saying it to make you happy, to tell you what you want to hear, right? This happens a lot with a toxic parent. because the kids understand that when they complain about the other parent or blow things out of proportion, they get extra attention. It makes the other parent happy. So you got to be very cautious. Is the kid telling you what you want to hear, or they really mean it? And the way people who I've seen who've mashed the button on this and went through it, when they get to court, the kid recants what they said. The parent who was trying to save their kid ends up looking like the bonehead who is trying to manipulate their kid, and it all blows apart and it doesn't accomplish anything. And that's, it's tough. And again, I'll end this one. I said, is most of the time, this is a no. Okay, are professionals willing to testify in court? Like what I already talked about. Most of the time, this is no. And sometimes when you have professionals who you're paying on your side, they will tell you that, we need to go this way. And then at the last minute, well, the last time I talked to them, they didn't present the same way. So I really can't say that I think they're this, and this. I've seen that happen to people before too. They're really good about just, playing the middle, which doesn't accomplish anything. And this goes back, and then the next bullet on this is, who else sees the danger? What is the danger, right? I mean, because what you almost have to do is say, if you are external from your situation and somebody was telling you what the danger, quote unquote, is, would they believe it? Now it's tough because we believe it because we're living it, and technically we're living it. So if someone else came and told us a similar story, we would probably believe them because it's going to trigger what we're dealing with and our frustrations. But the real question is how is it going to be presented? How is it going to be viewed? I did an interview, in the beginning days of my channel with Cordell and Cordell, and we got into a discussion towards the middle half, 3/4 ways through the video. And he was talking about how if you're trying to bring up a scenario, what you almost want to do is, instead of basically saying, they're a effing psycho, the kids need to be protected, because that makes your credibility look bad, you almost have to fake it and be like, all I want is everything to be better, just for the kids to have a good relationship and a safe relationship. If they would just get help, and it's like, what does it look like you're trying to accomplish? Are you trying to does it look like you're trying to leverage a situation to change custody? Because most of the time that's what it looks like. Most of the times that's what people think. Hell, even when I was going for 50-50 custody in the early days of this, the spin on it was Duane never cared about the kids. All he cared about is money. And all this is not about spending, 50% time with the kids. It is just so he doesn't have to pay money or pay as much money, right? That's what they're going to say. It's like, so you have to have an objective view of how your story is going to be interpreted, and interpreted and perceived. And if there's any faltering in that, you're not going to accomplish anything. So the hard reality is this. Again, it goes back to what I was saying. Is your course of action, is your decision to try to fight this minor issue like this person was talking about, is it going to move the needle? What exactly is it you want to accomplish? If you want to accomplish data points to where it's like, okay, every year I'm going to collect up everything that's happened, and I'm going to go to court and I'm going to spend $10,000 or so to just get it in the books, to get in front of the judge, to say that this is a problem. Yes, I will ask for some remediations or changes with the expectation that nothing is going to really happen. And then, build on that with the idea of being, okay, well, maybe not this year, but maybe in 3 years or 5 years, it'll move the needle. And then you really have to ask yourself, is it worth the financial cost, the emotional cost, the cost of the relationship or the hit to your kids? Because I will tell you, I mean, amazingly enough, when you try to fight these people, they don't play fair. They don't really give a crap about the kids, and the kids are going to pay for it. I've finally stopped pushing or trying to reverse poke the X in the eye, because what I fundamentally realized is every time I did, it made the kid's life harder and brought chaos into my environment and my house. And it ultimately was just like, it's just not worth the fight. It's just not worth it. I'm not moving the needle anywhere. I'm actually making everything worse. And that's part of the whole thing. If I'm some of my older videos where I was talking about, where I finally got to the point where I'm like, I don't care if the ex thinks she's winning. I mean, this isn't an issue for me anymore. I mean, all the kids are adults, and yeah, I still pay alimony, but I mean, everything else for it's over. I never have to see or interact with the ex again. Like, I'm kind of at the point now where if the kids want to do something and they can't physically get to me, if it's on the time where they're at their mom's, I'm not going to go over and pick them up. I mean, I'm like, it's like I do not have to have that person in my life at all, and I'm choosing to not do it, right? So it's like, what exactly are you planning to accomplish? And then on this, I was just talking about with the financial, do you have thousands upon thousands of dollars to, hold on, I forgot to hit the button, to throw away at this? If you do, I mean, and the sad reality is that if I did, I guarantee you, the minor issue, I would have absolutely taken her back on every time she was violating stuff. Every time the doctors or the therapist said there was a problem with her, I would have tried to just freaking turn, turn the freaking screw to prove a point. I didn't have, I was financially ruined on this for basically the 10 years until the kids started dropping off, or maybe 9 years. It was paycheck to paycheck, felt like I was running to the, like in the movies when the doors are closing and you're running and you're trying to get there, get to the other side. And it's like, if you don't make it, you'll perish, or you'll get to the next lock and try to move on, The reality is that I didn't have the money, and I tried initially to try to convince her to be a better human. That was a colossal waste of time, and it just wasn't worth it, So the next thing is, your best bet is to focus on the kids, make the bet, try to insulate them from the chaos and the drama as much as you possibly can, and let them drive the change, not change. When I said I was thinking money. Drive the change. So what I mean, this is what I'll tell you on my thing, right? So I still have 3 kids, but I mean, back in the day, 13, 11, and like 6. The 2 older kids never would stand up to their mom, would never pick anything to do with me, and always would just default to whatever their mom wanted to do, and, threw me under the bus multiple times, right? So part of that was probably because I was still so wrapped up in the drama that I wasn't making things calm and stable as much as I could in my environment, right? So it was like, the chaos was different, but it was still chaos. And as we all know, a toxic narcissistic person, for whatever reason, has a unique ability to scare their kids to just tell them whatever they want to hear and not fight back. But my youngest did for a while start saying, okay, I'm not playing with this game anymore, and I want to do this, and I'm going to do it, right? I mean, I think the last big one was a Friendsgiving thing that we were supposed to go to. And, The other two kids are like, nope, not interested, didn't want, it wasn't even worth it. The other one wanted to do it. And I'm like, okay. So I asked, hey, X, want to do this? And it's like, oh, that would be great. You can do it from, 7 to 8. And I'm like, actually it was like 7 to 9 or something like that. And I'm like, it's like 40 minutes to get to the location. I mean, literally we would go in, walk in, and leave, So I was just like, okay, well, oh well. Called my youngest and said, hey, hopefully you guys got something good going on, because I guess you have to be home by 9, even though you stay up until midnight every day. And in retrospect, what I should have done is I should have said, okay. And even though the ex was making just BS, whatever, I should have just did it, went up there, spent a couple minutes, said, hey, okay, well, glad we were here, and then turn around and left. And that's where it kind of gets into picking what's best for the kids in the time and the, whatever. That's a whole nother discussion we can get into. But that's basically the points I wanted to cover on this. Let me pull this back up just so we're all on the same thing. The fundamental answer is on minor stuff, document the crap out of it, but don't run to court on everything, because you are going to hurt your credibility. You're not going to move the needle. You're going to add extra stress into your life and to your kids' lives. And what are you hoping to accomplish? Right? These are questions you're only going to be able to ask and answer yourself, and you're going to have to be honest, and you're going to have to really take a step back and not look at it from your laser focused vision on what's actually happening, but like what is a judge going to really think? And then adjust accordingly. Honestly, I hate to say this, but for the most of the time, it's not worth the fight. You're not going to accomplish what you want to accomplish. And the last thing I'll just leave you with on this is don't do crap to provoke your ex. I was working with someone the other day, and I get it. I mean, there was a period of time, there was a period of time where I knew some people, I knew a makeup artist model, because I used to do photography stuff, and I was like, man, I should just ask her to do me a solid and pretend like we're going out and just, just shove it in the ex's face. I'm glad I didn't. But stuff like that just doesn't accomplish anything. What I will tell you is every time that I tried to shove in the ex's face that her shenanigans were not effective, it made my life, she went to extraordinary lengths to make my and the kids' lives a living hell. That's how I finally got to the point where I'm like, you know what? I don't care if she wants to think that she's winning and she's like, over there on that side, like not so good. She had this thing she used to say to me all the time. It's like something would happen and whatever. The one that pops in my mind was DirecTV, because I don't watch TV, but she had it, or we had it at the other house. And I said, hey, you need to transfer this in your name. Oh no, that's yours. I called them and I'm getting a better deal for less money. Not so good for you, good for me. And I was just like, what? And it's just stupid stuff like that. I mean, just keep your boundaries, keep your distance from them. Focus on how to make the scenario the best you can with your kids. If you have to keep documenting crap, keep documenting it. But if people aren't backing you up, and if your kids aren't backing you up, you're wasting your time. You're beating your head against the wall. And more than likely what's happening is when you are in that phase, like I was doing when I was in that phase, you are actually damaging your relationship with your kids. You're actually making things worse. Okay, would love to know what you think about this. If you think I'm spot on, or maybe you got some other questions on that. If you have a topic you would like me to cover, put it in the comments in this video, and I will I will add it into the queue and cover it in an upcoming video on that. Take care, and I will catch you on the next one if I can remember what button to push.